I'm Baby Francisco with this segment of Lessons for Entrepreneurs, and I'm speaking with Jason Schellen. He's the CEO and founder of Brizzly. Jason, we were just talking earlier about your experience at Blogger with Evan Williams, and right before you sold to Google. It's an inspirational story. Why don't you go ahead and explain? Because there's a lot of lessons in that experience.
Sure. So the part we were talking about was, what was the revenue story with Blogger, and it's certainly something that I'd like to see happen with Brizzly, that we get to a place where we have choices to make, that we don't necessarily need to focus on just an exit, that there could maybe be a more interesting story in terms of revenue. With Blogger, they had taken a little bit of angel funding way back when, and they had run out of it after, I don't know if it was 18 months, 24 months, and I started working with Evan during that time when it looked like funding was running out, and
no one going to get another round or
infusion. Well, I mean, this was January of 2001 at the time when not a lot of companies were doing fantastically well from the .com bubble being burst. So prospects for funding were not good, and he had to lay off a number of the employees, and luckily I was in a position where I was doing a bunch of consulting at the time for hardware tech companies, and was able to say, look, I'm happy to help in terms of business development or product strategy, and I didn't really need much at the time. But we slowly helped build the company back up. We did a few licensing deals, and that got us to 3 employees, and myself included, and then did some subscription stuff. So we asked our users for, at the time, it sounds silly now, but it was things like spell check, and things that you take for granted now.
They paid for that.
They paid for spell check. They paid for hosting on Blogspot without ads. It was actually, I think we charged somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 a year to remove ads from Blogspot. And then where that went really crazy well was when we said, okay, well, you can buy to remove ads on somebody else's Blogspot. So I could, sponsor you essentially to remove the ads on your site.
Okay.
And then we actually hosted some text ads. So in the fall of 2001, Evan and I rolled out, we intended to have a text ad product across the web and for all blogs, but the only place where it ever actually lived was on Blogger.com, and we took a significant amount of revenue from people who wanted to advertise to the users coming to Blogger.com. So I think the lesson there to me was, we bootstrapped.
You can do it.
We truly bootstrapped, and I won't say that there weren't months where Evan and I had the discussion about who was going to be paid that month, because it was definitely difficult, and most months that was.
And then lo and behold, Google showed
up.
Well,
they showed up, but we were on track to do really a decent amount of revenue in I think it was 2002, and.
But you got yourself there.
We got ourselves
you created
there.
The opportunity
right.
to be bought by Google
Absolutely.
by surviving, and so.
Absolutely.
With Brizzly right now, are you having that mindset where I'm just going to, make money? I'm going to build a business to make money first.
I think.
Not make revenue, not make money because you're selling.
Sure. I think I definitely am of the mindset that there are certainly some really important things that we're working on right now, but I want to get to revenue quickly and have something to prove. That's not to say that you should take short-term revenue I guess I do see companies do this a lot, where they get tricked into doing something like a partnership deal that's going to make a little bit of money, but really it's only going to get them a month or two out. And if they have a long-range vision, it might hurt that. So I'm careful when evaluating these things to think, hey, let's give ourselves a long enough time that we can really realize that long-range vision. But that part of that long-range vision is to be making some a reasonable amount of revenue.
Okay, so be careful with what type of revenue you're bringing in, but focus on revenue because you can get there and you can survive.
Sure.
Boy, you can really survive a drought, which is what it sounds like you experienced. And
sure.
Any other piece of advice you want to share?
I'm a big believer in recognizing your strengths. And I think that it's probably true that you can do a better job of going from good to great than you can at something that you've never touched, have no idea at. It's the likelihood that you're going to be great at that is probably low. So I think recognizing your strengths, if your company is good at interface design and all that, then lead with that strength. If your company is good at back-end engineering, then recognize that and maybe doing back-end deals for somebody else is the best way to go. And I still am sought out by a lot of entrepreneurs to talk about where they are in their life cycle. And I would say that the greatest thing you can do is have an honest conversation with yourself and your co-founders about what are you great at, and or what are you good at that you could be great at.
That's great. Excellent piece of advice. Thanks, Jason.
You're welcome.
I've been speaking with Jason Schellen. He's the CEO and founder of Brizzly. I'm Bambi Francisco.